14. Violent, gross and sad. Life in the asylum. Violent, gross, weird, or sad? That's the question. I've worked on an inpatient unit for a year. I'll give one of each, I guess. Violent, patient comes in and is psychotic. Breaks one of our staff members' legs. So he is on a strict protocol. He must stay in his room and a staff member is assigned to him around the clock until it is determined that he is safe. Well, he broke a grown man's leg, so the logical thing to do is make his one staff be a short, skinny girl like me. It ended up being fine, but I always questioned that decision. That guy could have broken me in half faster than I'd be able to call for help. Gross, woman admitted from her had maggots in her vagina. Also, kid kicked ass on me a few days ago. Still recovering from that one. Weird, woman told me I looked like the Virgin Mary. Later told me I look like Katy Perry. I guess they look similar. I've talked to Poseidon's wife, Jesus Christ, and one guy who was the son of Jack from Jack and the Beanstalk. Sad, little girl sexually abused many times. She was a horror when she was admitted, but I really took a liking to her. She is just a sweet kid. Went into work one day and was told she could not be in the shower alone. She was fingering her a hole, and from what I observed in the aftermath, she did some damage to herself. Pissed me off because she learned those behaviors from some sick F. She also perpsed a 2-year-old before coming to us. That makes me so infuriated. She is a good girl and she never deserved that. And now she has to deal with it forever. I wish I had more fun and hilarious stories, but most of the stuff I see just makes me very sad. But I have to admit, when that kid kicked ass on me, it was kind of funny. Source. 15. 8. Terrible disease. Not an insane asylum, but I frequently visit the Alzheimer's ward of a nursing home, which is close enough. First, you have to know that they put everyone into a big room to eat with about 4 people at each table. I am also a male, which is important to the story. I was feeding one of the women there and the woman across the table kept talking to me, which was normal. Alzheimer's patients are usually able to carry on a conversation until they are in the late stages, and this woman was in her early stages and still physically healthy. She kept complimenting me on how handsome I was, which is for sure a sign of a mental disability. I have one fat ugly mug. She also kept offering me a piece of her pimento cheese sandwich. I kept refusing and saying, no thank you, to her offers. Apparently, she wouldn't take no for an answer. I don't remember exactly what she said, but it was along the lines of, I'm going to feed this to you now. She got up and sprinted toward me, trying to grab me and force the pimento cheese sandwich in my mouth. Luckily, the Caribbean nurse assistants were able to grab her and say things like, no. This is my husband. You can't do that. For anyone who has never been into a nursing home, the nurse assistants are always Caribbean. It's a lot like Gullah Gullah Island, except more depressing. I darted for the hallway and left as soon as I could that day. I know it's kind of petty, but it was one of the scarier moments of my life. Also, there is the woman who screams, oh Lord Jesus. My tits. My titties hurt. Source. 16. The King Lives. Guy in his early 30s who was a gifted mathematician. Often thought he was Elvis, and would walk around at great speed mumbling to himself, or singing Elvis numbers under his breath. Totally burnt out by his own mind. A social group of heroin addicts who variously got admitted due to the psychiatric consequences of AIDS. Only one of them was HIV negative, and he would come to visit their friends. The reason why he was negative. His dad was diabetic, so he obtained and got first use of the needle. Source. 17. Creepy. I want to share mine. During nursing school we did a standard psych rotation. Another female classmate and I were in a group session in the men's unit. We sit down and then a violent sexual predator who makes it a point to make any and all females feel like victims, sits down next to me. He proceeds to invade my space and I'm not exactly sure what else he was doing back there because I was attempting to remain focused on the group lead's speech, but he received many verbal warnings about his actions. After a few minutes he interrupts to inform everyone that he needed to take a trip to the bathroom, wink at me and exit the room. At which point a patient on the other side of the room, who has refused to speak to anybody about anything, and up till this point has for all intents and purposes been completely in his own world, gets up. He politely scoots the chair, which had ended up touching me, away from me and sits down in it. He sits for a few seconds and then gets up, grabs his empty chair and throws it into the room across the hall. He sits down again. He received a warning for throwing things and a thank you from me. When the VSP came back and saw no available seat, he decided to go watch TV and wait for the nurse to open the med room. Also, all of the female patients ranging from 17-73 were pregnant. There were other things, but I really appreciated the help I received. Source. 18-12 months in the life. In the past year, a man with severe schizophrenia and a degenerative spine clearing a 3-4 foot counter just to sit on the floor in the middle of the nursing station because Arthur Saladin, the Supreme Being, told me to. Same guy trying to bite off his own fingers because we wouldn't let him climb the counter, so he needed to appease Arthur some other way. Having to remove plastic cups from the adolescent unit because one of the worst borderline girls I've ever worked with kept trying to cut herself with them. A bipolar patient presenting with psychotic features accusing me of being Cthulhu trying to steal his soul. Later became his favorite staff member after the mania. Schizophrenic 13-year-old that looked like Chucky. For real, that was the nickname staff gave her. Her parents didn't believe in medication, so I got to watch her laugh manically and respond to non-existent stimuli for extended periods of time. Source. 19. And if the elevator tries to bring you down. I work in the mental health field in a psych hospital, but I have also been on the receiving end. I think my personal favorite story was when I was admitted my first time. We were all in rec therapy and I was still having a hard time being in the hospital, suicidal ideation, so the social workers asked if we wanted to listen to some music. Lo and behold, Prince's Purple Rain was the album. It was all fun and game until Let's Go Crazy started. We all sat in silence and looked at each other for a good half a minute, then just busted up laughing.